for Monday, the 26th of October. We're moving now into the study of Hinduism. And for this study, I want to start with a story of an experience of one of my own teachers, Howard Thurman, and I want to share his picture here. Was a Black theologian, mystic, preacher, prophet of the 20th century, died in the 80s or 1980s, I believe. But very, very influential in the 20th century. I happened to be privileged to study with him for one semester at Louisville Presbyterian Seminary. The president brought him in to help these young Presbyterian preachers, wannabe preachers, learn how to pray. So I got a chance to take a class with him. I think I may still have a copy of the paper I wrote for the class, which was write about your earliest experience of God. I wonder how you could use that question for a class now. Anyway, I also got to sit with him in his office as we planned some prayer experiences with the other students of the seminary. Found him to be warm, engaging, deeply inspiring, and just an amazing, unusual man. Howard Thurman grew up in the segregated part of Daytona Beach, Florida. He was his family were very strong Baptists, but besides his family church, Thurman found a deep sense of the presence of God in his time by the ocean there in Daytona Beach, and sitting next to his favorite tree in the woods behind his house. That was a sense of the presence, the mysterious and wonderful and loving presence of God, the transcendence, the mystery, that gave him a sense of who he was and what he was supposed to be about. He put that together with his Baptist faith, and he was able at that point to have a sense of who he was and what he was going to be about. And that shaped his whole preparation, his education, his early ministries, and he became one of the spiritual backbones of the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 60s in America. It is said that Martin Luther King Jr. carried Thurman's little book, Jesus and the Dispossessed, with him everywhere he went when he traveled. And that's, if we're going to read one other book besides a textbook in college, I recommend you read Jesus and the Dispossessed by Howard Thurman. It tells the basic sense of who Jesus was for the marginalized people of Palestine at that time, and how he recommended, and his religion was how they could live their lives with sense of integrity and purpose and meaning in the midst of being oppressed by the Roman Empire. He taught people how to find their own inner sense of God's presence with them, a mystical sense. He helped us see how we need to form out of that spiritual presence communities of justice and peace and friendship and fellowship, and that can bring about justice and peace in the world. Like all good the Black liberation theologians who followed him, his beliefs were formed not from Baptist doctrine, but from his own unique experience of God. This course is formed from that approach to religion, the one I learned from Thurman. I also picked up on it from the phenomenologist that I quoted in the paper on the experience of the transcendence that I gave you earlier in the semester. Now, here's the connection with Hinduism. In the 1930s, as a relatively young man, Thurman was invited to be a member of a delegation of Christians to visit and tour India and go around speaking and listening. He writes in his autobiography, With Head and Heart, that he struggled amid the noise and the strangeness and the smells and the colors of the Indian culture and Hinduism, trying to find a way to understand the religious experience of the people there. He grew up Black Baptist, and he had begun to realize as he was spending time with other denominations, Christian denominations, Methodists and others had a very similar kind of sense of how do you connect with God? And that connection with God is the beginning of that sense of faith and religion. So he said as he entered and dealt with that time in, and here's, I wanted to share this neat new share, this neat picture. While he was there, he got a chance to meet and spend some time with Mahatma Gandhi. Here's a picture of Thurman's wife in a conversation. She and Gandhi got on very well in that conversation as well. Obviously here having a very good time. It was, and his that time where he got to learn, Thurman got to learn of Gandhi's strategies for overthrowing the British colonial power in India that had held India in such degrading circumstances for so long, and the nonviolent approach that he took. So what he said, he wanted to find a way to stand side by side with any Hindu or a Muslim or a Buddhist and honor the authenticity of each person's religious experience as essentially the same as what he had experienced himself. He sensed that essence was going to be identical. And that's the kind of approach to religion I want us to take in this class. And I'm hoping that this particular week provides you some ways of getting into the heart and mind of a Hindu person as you begin to sense what is their life all about. I hope also that as you as you're working on your term paper and experience another religion, and as you go back in reviewing for the final exam just in a few weeks from now, I hope you will think again of the common experience of the mysterious transcendent that it exists at the very base of each of the religious ideas of God and the experiences and the ethics of those religions as we have experienced them, from early Jewish and pre-Jewish religions to early Christianity, African religions, Black religions, white Christianity, and Islam, and then Hinduism next week, Buddhism. We're wrapping it up now. Hinduism, then, from as we enter this experience, perhaps with the same sense of openness that Howard Thurman experienced and portrayed. We will find, as you read, Hinduism as a very ancient religion. It is older than most of the ones we have studied now, much older than Christianity, much older than Islam for sure. And it goes way back to the earliest time of India, and actually from the Middle East to the Aryans who invaded India, and basically and permeated their culture. That was about 2,000 years before Christ. And it was also about the same time that Judaism got its start. It was about the same time as the flourishing of the great Egyptian religions. Uh, so this goes way back. It's a long and ancient and honorable religion. And Hinduism is very confusing to the American eye and ear because of this hundreds of gods portrayed as fantastical human and animal shapes and statues and pictures. They're venerated in temples and in home devotional centers around the country. You'll see some of those images in the Keene book. The colors are vivid and exaggerated. The smells of India are overwhelming. People who've been there tell me the clamoring of great numbers of high population centers all packed together. Um, the cows roaming the streets as holy. These are all pieces of the strangeness for us of Hinduism. You'll see these things in the Keene book. Now, the curious thing to start with is that the Hindus claim that they are a monotheistic faith. They believe there is only the one spiritual center of everything, which they call Brahman. But like the early African religions, there were lots of minor influences that they call gods that they say, as Keene will explain to you, as different ways of experiencing Brahman, the central God. But we can remember, as we enter this strange and wonderful and curious world, from Howard Thurman, this bizarre and unthinkable religion, that it has sprung naturally from the spiritual encounters of people in that area, with that history, that culture, and those ideas. And we can be sure that the Hindu religion, and we can begin to see how does the Hindu religion provide its followers with a sense of identity in relationship with the mystery of the universe, a sense of purpose and worth of being a human being, a connection with each other in society, and an ethical compass for living a worthy life. Very different from ours, but differences in religion, in differences in lots of things, are only differences. They are not necessarily alienating. They are not necessarily saying that they are so alien from us and different that we cannot comprehend, empathize, and understand. So I hope you'll read the assignments in Keene. I hope you will look up the definitions and expand your familiarity with this religion this week. And I invite you to see if you can, like Howard Thurman, come to stand side by side in your mind with a Hindu and have the sense that the authenticity of his experience springs from the same kind of place as your own spiritual religion and experience of God. I will see you Wednesday morning. Thank you.